question is that this bill be now read a second time. I call the member for Riverina.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And there are several elements to this bill, and I appreciate the fact that the Deputy Manager of Opposition Business, Member for Page, who is also the Shadow Minister for Trade and Tourism, has spoken on this legislation, and the fact that the Coalition is supportive for any number of reasons, which I will outline and go through. Now, as I say, there are a number of aspects to the Customs Tariff Amendment and Corporation of Proposals Bill number 2, 2023. Deputy Speaker, the first measure is the expansion in the scope of the types of goods specified in the agreement between the Government of Australia and the European Space Agency for a cooperative space vehicle tracking program. And space, some might argue, is the final frontier, although there are large areas of our oceans we have yet to explore. But ask any child at school studying science, and they are very excited by space and the prospect of further exploration. And I just want to give a bit of a shout out to John Sarkissian at the Radio Telescope at Parkes, the dish, and the work that he does. This is important. And indeed, the aspects of this bill, the Customs Tariff Amendment Bill, will enable the duty-free entry of equipment, materials, supplies and other property that are for the European Space Agency and are for use in agreed activities under the agreement and imported by persons employed or engaged by the European Space Agency. And it's vital that we have good links, good associations with the European Space Agency, and I commend the Morrison government for the work that we did in implementing a national space program centred on Adelaide, but for all the work that we did in that regard and the funding and the investment that we made, it was so very important. This particular aspect of the bill will also enable the duty-free entry of personal and household goods imported by those persons I mentioned before. The European Space Agency is currently undertaking expansion of their facility in Western Australia to include a new 35-metre diameter deep space antenna for communicating with various space science missions and a biomass calibration transponder to support the 2024 biomass mission, which aims to provide critical information about forests globally and improve our understanding of the role forests play in the carbon cycle, because it's not just investigating space and exploring space, the final frontier. It's also how that will help us determine how the universe evolved and indeed, perhaps even more importantly than the past, where we are going in the future, and things such as forests, things such as the carbon cycle, the environment, weather patterns, all of those are aided and assisted by having the right technology, the right investment in space programs. And Parkes is front and centre of that. Western Australia, with the particular facility there. Indeed, Adelaide, with the national space program that we have developed there. The second measure extends the duration of the temporary duty reduction for Ukrainian goods for an additional year. Now, this measure is aimed to assist Ukraine's continued participation in global trade. It supports its endeavours to uphold its territorial integrity in response to Russia's illegal and immoral invasion, and it is necessary for the protection of Australia's essential security interests. Now, I'm sure that Vladimir Putin thought he could just roll into Ukraine, just like Hitler did to Poland in September 1939, and win in a matter of hours, if not days. Well, you know, the Ukrainian people, they have to be admired for their courage, for their resistance, for their resilience, and for thwarting that immoral and illegal invasion. As a demonstration of Australia's ongoing support for the people of Ukraine, who've borne a terrible toll from Russia's invasion of their country, the Free rate of customs duty will continue to apply to goods other than alcohol, tobacco, petroleum and fuel products that are the produce or manufacture of Ukraine to the 3rd of July. And the Coalition wholeheartedly supports Ukraine's defence against the Russian invasion, and I know the government does too. Last year the Coalition wrote to the Foreign Minister, Senator Wong, and the Defence Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, a member for Corio, requesting that the government provide further support to Ukraine, in addition to the $285 million support delivered by the former government. And I do appreciate, and I mean this genuinely and earnestly and sincerely, the efforts that the government has gone to support Ukraine's efforts. I do. But there is more to be done. And while it's a little aside from this particular bill, we do need to be upfront and certain about why we are holding back helicopters, why we haven't given enough bushmasters to their efforts. And we do need to do that because we do need to make every effort to help Ukraine in this repulsion of this invasion. So far, Australia's aid to Ukraine is about $910 million. And to be honest, that is investment in world peace and world democracy. We've committed to delivering 120 bushmasters. It's a homegrown, homemade armoured personnel carrier that's proven to save numerous Australian and Ukrainian lives in conflicts past, and it's built in Bendigo, so I'm sure the member for Bendigo would endorse my remarks in that regard. The third measure in this bill enables certain goods to be imported with a free rate of customs duty where goods are imported from the 1st of January 2022 and are prescribed by bylaw for a specified international sporting gathering, an event. The first event prescribed was the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. Now, you would have thought that with the celebrations and euphoria surrounding that, the Matildas would have won it, but they didn't. So imagine had they won it, and I wish they had, but it united Australia. Sport does that. It's got the great capacity and ability to unite Australians when other events or other people, such as politicians, cannot. And good luck to the Matildas. Just last Friday, the Southern New South Wales Women's Australian Football League, the 7th season began in earnest in Wagga Wagga. I was very pleased that the Sports Minister actually is endorsing the competition, and I thank her for that. And she knows, as well as I do, that women's Australian rules is the fastest growing sport in Australia. There's so many involved, 650 women and girls in and around Wagga Wagga alone, just in the youth and senior women's competition, let alone the schools competition. And I thank Mark Eppert for the efforts he's gone to from AFL Riverina for that. But we get back to the bill. And the retrospective commencement date has the benefit of enabling those who imported goods, such goods from New Year's Day 2022 to apply for a refund of the import duties they have paid. And as I say, sporting events are important. I'm very disappointed the Commonwealth Games in 2026 have been cancelled by Victoria, but that's sort of a disappointment for Melbourne and Victoria. I know it's going to be held in regional Victoria, but well done to Melbourne for hosting another successful Australian Open, and congratulations to Jane Herdlicker, all class for that tournament and her comments thereafter. The fourth measure in this bill is the extension of the temporary additional duty for Russian and Belarusian goods for a further 24 months. Now, the additional duty rate of 35% will, therefore, continue to apply to goods which are the produce or manufacture of Russia or Belarus, in addition to the general rate of customs duty that applies to these goods. Now, we know that it is important that this apply. We know that it is vital that a message is sent to clearly enunciate Australia's position on this. It's not just the Coalition's position, it is the Labor government's position as well. And that's why we're supporting this. I think we are as one on ensuring that a clear and unequivocal message is sent and underlined from Canberra, from Australia, that this needs to be so. The additional duty applies to goods entered for home consumption between 25th of April 2022 and the 24th of October next year, other than those that are eligible for a Schedule 4 concessional item or left for a direct shipment to Australia from a place manufacturer or warehouse prior to Anzac Day 2022. This measure is a direct response to Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, supported by Belarus. And I say again, we are as one, as a parliament, in saying that this invasion is wrong, that this invasion needs to be thwarted. I know I am as one to support the marvellous leadership of Zelensky and the people of Ukraine for their efforts thus far and what they will do in the future to ensure that right wins over wrong. Right wins over wrong. It was the Coalition in government who announced on the 31st of March 2022, prior to the election, that Australia would join like-minded countries in temporarily removing what was called most favoured nation tariff treatment and imposing an additional duty on goods from Russia and Belarus. Now, ordinarily, goods from Russia and Belarus would be subject to the general rate of customs duty, most commonly 5%, or indeed free. Instead, most goods that are the produce of manufacture of Russia and Belarus are subject to a temporary rate of customs duty of 35% in addition to the general rate of customs duty that would ordinarily have applied to these goods. And the temporary removal of MFN treatment and, that's most favoured nation status, and imposition of additional duty was a response to the invasion. Now, too many innocent lives have been lost in Ukraine. Too much blood has been shed. The bombing of maternity hospitals and other places which should be of sanctuary and safety in Ukraine is beyond belief. And unless a nation like Australia and other like-minded nations stand up, then the world gives in to bullies. And we've way too many bullies in the world at the moment. And they need to be stood up. They need to be repelled. And this timely and appropriate legislation helps with that, assists with that, and I commend it to the House.
I thank the member.